I'd first like to start with Ms. Arquette. You're a star, famous, celebrated, and yet in your career, I'm sure you face some type of sexism, the same that ordinary women face every day. What are some of the gender-based obstacles that you've had to face in your own career?
I've been sexually assaulted. I've had to turn down work because I had employers that were not willing to be reasonable as people. They wanted me to sign papers saying I'd be naked and do whatever they wanted. I'm an actor. I'm dealing with the director. I have no say as an employee or as a citizen, as a human being. I've called the police when I was sexually assaulted by a stranger on the road and had the police not even come. And I was a kid. I've had so many experiences in this country of sexual assault, but it's not really just about me. Woman after woman, okay, listen, don't we all expect when 1/4 of all women will be raped in their lifetime, isn't it reasonable to expect that an emergency room would know how to collect evidence from a rape kit? Isn't that reasonable? And yet women are going, when they've been raped, from hospital to hospital and being told, sometimes they go to 4 hospitals right after they've been raped, and they're told they don't know how to collect the evidence. They have to go to another place. By the time they get their rape kit taken, and this is from a joyful heart, gave me this information, by the time they get their rape kit taken, the date rape drug is gone. It is no longer in their system. And we know only 3% of rapists ever spend a day in jail. This is systemic. This is across our country. We need every tool to root out bias, both racial bias that women of color are experiencing, and also we have to root out sexist bias. Look, we have women also in Alabama who are dying of treatable cervical cancer because they are poor Black women. There's 1 gynecologist for 5 counties. We have African American women dying. We're the only country with a rising maternal death rate in the developing world. And 700 Black women died. What is going on? What is happening here? These are preventable things, but time after time we're seeing all these layers of bias, and until we have the Equal Rights Amendment, and with all of these other Title IX and all of these things, we'll never be able to root out this, and we'll never be able to change this for American women.
Thank you so much. Ms. Sullivan, let me ask you some rapid fire because you do have time. Some opponents of the ERA have argued it have a terrible effect, like eliminating women's sports teams or abolishing separate bathrooms. Can you tell me what your thoughts are on those arguments?
The ERA would have no such effect. We have had interpretation of the Equal Protection Clause that allows the unequal treatment of men and women when it's important to rectify past disadvantage, for example. And we've had ERAs in 22 states, adopted by 22 states, and we haven't seen the elimination of same-sex sports teams or same-sex bathrooms in any of those states. So that's a myth.
Thank you. Professor Foley has argued that the states which have rescinded their ratification should not be counted in the assessment of whether we've reached the 38-state limit. In your view, should states be able to rescind their ratification?
In my view, they should not. Article 5 provides for ratification. It does not provide for rescission, and we have never recognized a state rescission of its prior vote for an amendment. In fact, the 14th Amendment that contains the Equal Protection Clause was ratified even though Ohio and New York had purported to rescind their votes for it. That creates powerful precedent that rescissions are null and void, and that's what the Attorney General of 5 states told the states who tried to rescind after the 1972 passage of the ERA. Rescissions do not count. Once ratified, it's a one-way ratchet.
And some Republicans have brought up the issue of abortion or a woman's right to choose. You mentioned all the industrialized nations in the world have amendments on ERA. How have they affected in their countries, and just in general, can you discuss what effect ERA would have on reproductive rights?
The ERA is a totally separate issue from abortion and reproductive rights. It will help encourage the equality of women, which does involve reproductive rights. But in those countries with the ERAs and in those states with ERAs, the passage of the ERA has not changed the law of abortion in those countries. The Supreme Court has already protected the right of access to abortion as a matter of reproductive choice, just like it protects other intimate choices, like the choice to use birth control. And that debate has happened without the ERA. So the ERA is about equality, and any debate about abortion and reproductive rights will continue after its passage, as it has in other states and other countries that have adopted it.
Thank you. And now I'd just like to go to Professor Foley for a little history lesson. I'm sure as a University of Tennessee law student, you learned about the Perfect 36 in Tennessee and the ratification of the women's right to vote.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the story about Harry Byrne, a Republican legislator? Do you know that story?
No, I don't.
Well, you should.
Okay.
So should everybody else in America. It came down in 1920. 35 states had passed, ratified. 12 had said no. One state left, Tennessee. Major battle. Senate, which I was a member, not at the time, but for 24 years, passed it like 25-7. The House was tied. It was almost the last day. A Republican male, young man named Harry Byrne, got a note from his mother. Harry, do the right thing. And Harry did the right thing, and Harry Byrne, a Republican, voted yes, passed the amendment, the Perfect 36, and women have the right to vote. Thank you very much, Harry Byrne. I now recognize Mr. Johnson, who walks in Harry Byrne's shoes.